It's Grudge Match Day! And yes, we're gonna have a blast with this one. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Jam Shed, and welcome to this episode of Grudge Match. I'm Ray. I'll be your host for this fun journey of gear exploration. And for those of you that are new to the channel and you're asking yourself, what is a grudge match? Simply put, it's just tone chasing. It's whatever is up inside this brain on any given day, alongside of whatever gear comes into the shed, and we're gonna pit them against each other. Sometimes it's similar things, sometimes it's not. So without further delay, let's take a look at what's on the bench. And as you see, we have two distortion pedals. Now, I have had a huge affinity for overdrive pedals from all brands. I'm not brand specific. It seems like Boss has been dominating the channel lately, but they have phenomenal pedals and they have a deep catalog of choices. So, of course, we're going to explore these. And this one's coming by way of a viewer's comment and suggestion on what I should check out next. And he recommended that I check out the Turbo Distortion 2, and I went down the rabbit hole and found all the different versions that were out there and landed on just a run-of-the-mill Distortion 2 pedal, and it's this Turbo. And for those of you who don't know, Tube Screamer also made a Turbo version of their overdrive pedal. I was a fan. I owned one, but you know what? I moved it. Why? Because the option of the Turbo I would never use, and so I'm really curious to see how this fares in the distortion realm. Now, they're using the terminology Turbo. I know those pedals are not the same, but I'm saying, like, that whole Turbo moniker was a thing for a moment there. So I'm sure there are a bunch of other pedals out there. This was a thing, a trend that happened. And if you threw the words turbo on it, I guess anything with a turbo is awesome, right? Okay, enough talking. Let's get into what we're going to do here. So we're going to shoot these two pedals out. I have the DS-1W Waza Craft, and so I have it on the second setting, or the upgraded setting. And I thought, you know what, if you're going to put this against something like a Distortion 2 pedal, which should, and it says turbo, so it has to have a bunch of gain. It makes sense for us to go ahead and level these two up together as much as we can to keep them as similar. I've not had a lot of time with the Turbo Distortion, or the DS2 in this case, so I'm very curious, like probably all of you are who are tuning in, to see what do these two pedals sound like. So here's what we're going to do. For the testing purposes, I'm just going to talk a little bit about that briefly here. I am simple. With the potentiometers, there's a lot of variance, and so that can play into how much. So I just do the lowest setting on distortion and the highest setting, while the volume's set to full max, so we're going to get full signal to all of this. And I'll be switching back and forth, and then I'll give my thoughts on that, and then I'll come back, we'll turn them up all the way, and I'll give my thoughts on that. And then I'll blend them. We'll see how they sound gain staged. I might do some tweaking if it's getting a little out of control with the distortion. And then I'll come back today and give my final thoughts. So let me go grab a guitar, and let's hear how these pedals sound. The axe of choice for our testing purposes today is my 2016 Evo. It has a Gibson Burstbucker 3 loaded here in the bridge position, and that is exactly where we're going to stay for the shootout. So let's jump right into it. The signal change, quite simple. Using my 2-channel triple rectifier, that is running to a 1x12 that is hosting a Eminence Karnivore by Christian Cole, a signature speaker. If you don't know much about it, go back through the channel. I've done several videos on that speaker. It's become one of my favorites here. It definitely is giving my vintage 30 a run for the money. Now, that is also being then captured by an SM57. So let's talk about how we're going to do this. Just again, briefly highlighting, I'm going to start with these pedals at their lowest gain setting, switch back and forth, come back, give my final thoughts. Then we'll jump into the next part where I turn them up all the way, come back and get some thoughts, and then we'll gain stage them. I'll give some more thoughts, and then we'll land the plane on today's episode. So let's take a listen to these guys, their lowest gain setting. Here we go. All right, at their core, they're doing what they do, right? So nothing was shockingly huge there. I know the Waza Craft in prior tests that I've done has often sounded more gainy or having more distortion at the lowest setting, and against the Turbo, that is the same. I think the Turbo was certainly lighter on the distortion on the low end of things. Almost feels more like a Tube Screamer-esque type Breakup, if I'm being completely honest. Now, one of the things we didn't talk about are some of the features on the Turbo Distortion that I want to highlight. There are two settings. There's a lower setting, which is even less gain than what you're hearing here. And then there's the second setting, and that's where we're going to stay. I didn't say that, but I want to make sure I circle back and let you guys know that I'm keeping it at that second setting, so we're going to get the most gain. All right, let's do the second part of our test today, and let's have these pedals, distortions, cranked up. So let's do that now. We'll do this in real time. Get them all cranked up. And let's hear how they sound. Now that sounded a whole heck of a lot closer than they did in their lowest gain setting. I would say that the biggest thing I noticed is that the Turbo Distortion has way more mid-range. I almost feel like the DS1 was more scooped, almost like that modern type, or maybe even the Mesa sound versus a Marshall sound. For those of you that love both of those companies and have dissonance between the two, don't hit me too hard in the comment section there. But I'm trying to think about the best ways to think about how do we describe what we're hearing here, and realistically it's the mid-range. And so if you're looking for a distortion pedal that's going to push your mid-range a little more, and how you might find this beneficial in the mix. So let's say you are a pedal driven individual when it comes to your rig. You're using primarily pedals, and maybe for a solo or maybe for a second guitar track, you might find that that mid-range bump that you're going to get out of the Turbo Distortion is really helpful to balance out what you're getting in the much more grainy sounding distortion or scooped distortion you're getting out of the DS1. So your mileage may vary here, but it was pretty compelling. You could hear a distinct difference, but I will point this out. I wonder how close these two circuits are, because the bones of the distortion I was hearing is very similar. All right, we've talked enough about that. So you got to hear it. Let's get these two gain staged, and I'm actually going to start with them at their midpoints to see how they sound. So let's dial them back a little bit here. Set them out to their mids. And then this way, when we go ahead and get them set to AB, and we're going to start with that right away, and then I'll start tweaking and see what we get. Who knows, maybe the sound we get we're just going to love right from Jump Street. All right, let's take a listen. That was fun. So it's very interesting how the Turbo really does dominate in the mid-range. So if you notice there at the tail end of that, I went back and I switched them from A-Bing to hear how they sounded, so I got a quick understanding of what I was hearing there. And it is pretty interesting how when gain staged, it just sounds like a slightly louder Turbo Distortion. And I don't know, I'm curious to hear what you guys thought. Leave a comment below, please. So overall, again, two awesome pedals. I think I'm really liking what I'm hearing here with the Turbo Distortion. I think it's got a unique thing going for it in the mid-range. And so at some point, maybe in another video here, we'll do some more exploring. Maybe I'll just do a feature and benefit and bring the distortion one in, and we'll have to do a little jam. That's not happening today, but stay tuned for that. If you want me to do that, hey, leave a comment below. I'd love to make sure we're putting some things out there that keep you guys interested in. Again, this wasn't a tutorial on these pedals. It was more so just a little bit of exploring. So here's my overall thoughts with the Turbo Distortion. When it comes to that pedal, if you're looking for some mid-range, man, this thing really nails it. And again, if you're the all-arounder here is this DS1. I think you can do a lot with that. You can dial that back. Just be mindful. On the low end, if you're an edge of breakup player, that might not be the pedal you want to start with, but I think you can start with the Turbo Distortion. Why? It's got two settings, and that first setting, much lower gain. In fact, let's just take a quick listen to that. We didn't get to hear it, but let's hear it now, and I'll kind of swing back so you can hear what that sounds like, so you have at least a snapshot of that, and we'll make sure we chapter this, so if you want to hear that first setting on the Turbo Distortion, we'll have it in there. Let's take a listen. So we'll call that a bit of a bonus jam there. And the reason why I thought it's fitting to do that, simply because this really does have its own feel. Again, hearing that first setting versus the second setting, I would give you this little added to that. And seriously, please comment down below what you guys were hearing there. Pretty interesting. It does take a little bit of that top end fizz off, seems to mellow out the pedal, make it a little darker. I still think those, words are hard today, I think those mids are still pretty complex and pretty forward, but it seems to tame it a little bit. So again, getting to hear that and then switching over, I turned up the Turbo Distortion's tone and to try to see how close I could get it to match the DS1. And it's, again, I'll go back to that these pedals really do seem to share the same DNA. Now, I would love for anybody who's an expert on these circuits to chime in below. So if you know, are these inherently a similar circuit? Are they wildly different? We'd love to know in the comments. So if that's you and you've got that knowledge, please share it. With all of that, I want to say I wish you all had a Thanksgiving for those of you that are in the US and celebrate, and the holidays are just upon us, so stay tuned. We'll have some more content coming your way. I've got a couple speakers I want to shoot out, and if there's anything you're interested in seeing below, hey, put a comment. You guys are amazing. Thank you to those who just recently subscribed. It's awesome to watch this channel grow, and we're not far from 100 subscribers, so maybe this video will get us there. And for all of you who are with your family and enjoying your time off and you've got a little bit of vacation time, I wish you all well. And for those of you that are on the grind and working hard, hey, keep it up, and hopefully this brings you a little bit of joy while you're on break. And I'll see you guys all on the next one. We're out.